We are closing the festival with this 2-day symposium named Listening as a Tool to Blow Out the Bubble. And what we want to do here is, on the one hand, to listen to our listening, to our hearing, and on the other hand, to talk and think about what does listening do to us, and about how powerful is this. What does listening mean in the actual Brazilian moment, in the sound art, and within the discussions about sound art?
Since our view tree deals in a way with forms of escaping for dominant colonialist narratives of history, the body, and of ethics and aesthetics of listening. What is for you the listening in a moment that part of our communication is encapsulated by those non-neutral media? We have an ethic and an aesthetic of body's domination. How to listen outside the frames of those main internet corporations like Google, Zoom, Facebook, etc. How to escape from that?
So in a way, like, I really like to frame the thought like through gaps. There is not like one enemy or one wall we have to break or to fight with. It's a whole structure, and the structure is just there, and in my humble opinion, it somehow will always be. So it's like, it's in the as a strategy of listening, of acting upon like sonic fictions through gaps, like with a capoeira, for example. Like it's a beautiful example for me sometimes that I think of, like, you're in a fight, but it's also a dance, so you really have to be strategic with occupying these gaps and listening for them, like listening for the spaces.
Some kind of wound, but then trying to work out
That's
what
a very big
is being
box.
stopped rather than what's being... Are we recording already? Because I was thinking a little bit about like what was making me so
And I did open the box.
uncomfortable about lots of social science approaches to things.
Nothing was damaged.
And I think it's and I think the stuff that I read from social scientists, which I think is good, is the stuff where they've problematized this a bit, which is like that it kind of works on an opposite logic to how you work with people, because you work with them as particularities, whereas it starts off by trying to say, let's find a type of person and then talk to some people within that type. And then what usually happens is they find out that these people were particularities, and that their original ideas about trying to group together the views of this type of person don't work. And it's just like, how many times can that revelation constantly come over people? And how many disciplines can be structured around that?
Lid beside the box, since I will be taking out the presents first. So that we
I was wondering if
can
my
have
conversation
a
was
general
holding up the
idea
rolling.
how much we have.
So I wonder if it's like something like an uncanny valley situation where they just felt it was too close to home. Like if there's a critical point for you to like take to learn from, is it like, did you accommodate too much and then it produced this massive gulf like in their perception? Because if you'd come with them like a graphic school, maybe they would have just done it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, I couldn't do it differently. That was exactly the challenge and my interest. No, it was really like to work. What can I still do with this language in a way that it contains, like it can be the container for my ideas, which I want to present here. My ideas of this whole relationship, political arrangement,
and also the production of gaps.
Wait, this is not
because it's about this like this slight disjunct between their conventions and language and your ideas as represented through their conventions and language, and it's the production of that gap or the production of that space.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is then a political point as well, right?
Yeah.
Tissue paper.
My question is going to Marcela. I was very interested in this Trojan gift. The Trojan in this software language means like a virus, a malware, something that which misleads users in its intention or in its the way they do things. So I was very interested in this way you choose the idea of the Trojan to show and to bring that if once installed, the Trojans can perform the action it was designed for, isn't it? So I was wondering, we are talking about these conservative forces that are very strong, that we are having a tough fight against. And then the question is if it is possible to overcome this.
This reminds me of something I find very interesting when you say like possible, like is it possible? And when we talk possibility, we think about faith. We think, do you believe that this is possible? And then like, if you look into, for example, like Afro-Brazilian thought, you figure out like, I've heard from Candomblé hierarchy person about faith, that how much faith is a kind of core of like Western thought ontology, because in Afro-Brazilian culture, it's not about faith. You do the thing and you live it, and so you actually like, we don't need to believe that it's possible to overcome this. We just need to do our thing.
I feel that our entire social life is being, the corporations are feeding the algorithms with our entire social life, and we are really inside this data colonialism. If the class is not corporeal together, it seems to me that part of the learning disappears, because it is not recorded in our bodies. Not like playing an instrument and moving your fingers with your body awareness. If data colonialism undermines the most micro act of our lives, to the cellular and molecular of our body, from the movements of our heads, we are emotionally reading by machine learning, which means musically composing with these minimal everyday gestures now sucked into our lives for big data processing. I think the mini gestures that I put in my video, I'm trying to incorporate these minimal gestures that are captured by these streamings and these platforms and all the minimal social interaction that we are offering to these conglomerates and to minoring our datas, and I try to deal with this. I don't know how we can go out the bubble, or I don't know really, because we are so in right now.
The stream. Offering the unprecedented new Sino cuestiona la legitimidad fundamental del colonialismo a través de formas de pensamiento decolonial.
I just have finished this madness of all the leaving of students that couldn't reach the classes and the precarization of the access of the students at the university in their remote classes. But I feel right now that the colonialism is very much inside of us and under the skin, it's begin to act in our lives in the sense that we don't know and we don't have idea of the limits and the harms that is doing to us right now.
Well, I think that, as Marcela said, we need to use these gaps there are in the society to blow up this bubble. Because I think that the question of the digital area, digital culture, etc., depictions the representation of the real society. I think that we should try find other ways, other perceptions, other conceptions, other alternatives to listen and to understand how all the things that are happened in different layers of the society. It's how we can find a out to this bubble.
After the end of the world, don't you know that yet? It's after the end of the world. Don't you know that yet? It's after the end of the world. Don't you know that yet? It's after the end of the world. Don't you know that yet?
Quando Exum cunhou o termo ficção sônica como um movimento heurístico de muitos sons e artistas que ressalta experiências sonoras, sensoriais, imaginações e ficções proporcionadas a partir de produções sonoras afrodiaspóricas. Em seu estudo de visões do futuro na música, que vai de Sun Ra até For Real, o autor une som e ficção científica para abordar as culturas e técnicas sonoras afrodiaspóricas futuristas. A ficção sônica foi concebida por Exum como conceito por ocasião de artefatos culturais, principalmente afrofuturistas, de performances, composição musical e peças sonoras. No entanto, uma das principais características da ficção sônica é assumir tradições, práticas e interpretações principalmente fora do afrofuturismo. Essa qualidade prolífica, viral, contagiosa e assimilativa da ficção sonora a torna uma força continuamente inventiva e transformadora, capaz de gerar ficções sonoras, sinestésicas e sensoriais criadas de maneira diferente e novas. Sun Ra, George Clinton e Lee Perry são tidos como fundadores do som afrofuturista. Os três músicos compartilham mitologias próprias, tópicos comuns, performances marcantes e uso de figurinos em contextos musicais, tais como o reggae, o jazz e o funk norte-americano. Perry, Ra e Clinton construíram mundos próprios, ambientes futuristas que sutilmente tratam de marginalização da cultura negra e utilizam um conjunto de metáforas espaciais e alienígenas que liga sua história afrodiaspórica comum a uma noção de extraterritorialidade. A relação com o afrofuturismo e ficção sônica é importante. O afrofuturismo é um movimento que reúne narrativas e ficções especulativas da experiência negra, o que significa que a ficção sônica pode ser um paralelo sonoro para o afrofuturismo. A ideia pode ser também caracterizada como um programa para a recuperação da história e memória social do povo negro, para a criação e imaginação de futuros. Essa estratégia permite especular a história a partir de uma perspectiva afrocentrada. Este trabalho crítico de produzir ferramentas de intervir no atual regime político pode ser visto como um caminho para extrapolar as bases epistemológicas hegemônicas sociais, culturais.
I have a question for Peter, which has to do with this idea of sonic fiction. And Peter, I just want to ask you, how do you see, I guess, this epistemological approach, and also political approach, also as a way of writing alternative histories, but also of actually writing about sound almost in the kind of a science fiction manner, or imagining different pasts or imagining different futures. So I wonder if you want to comment on that.
First, the Black and the afrodiasporic discussions and the futuristic discussions. There is idea of, to reconstruct a memory that was destroyed in the slavery system. So we can say that we can rediscover the past to imagine the future. And this point is very, very, very interesting, because it's an exercise of thinkers and the artists in the Afro and diaspora and the Black diaspora, and the sometimes when we are talking about future, it's not about future, it's about the present, it's about the nowadays, day by day of experience that we are living. It's about the violence of the states, of the government, of the copies. So when we are talking about future, usually we are talking about of today, and the solutions to the future can be, there are a lot of possibilities of so we can have a optimistic future or a pessimistic future. So it depends how you are constructing your view, your narrative. And I think that this idea of the fiction, it's not about ingenuity work, no, it's about the possibilities to create infinities solutions to a complex situation. So that's the great potential of the sonic fiction. It's not only about a utopic future or a dystopic future, but the possibility or possibilities to construct it any numbers of futures and the present.
My question is directed to Peter, but Flora and Marcela can answer as well. It's something I think about a lot. It's the appropriation of the fights or the struggle that are legitimate, that comes from a legitimate group like the blacks, the women, and this fight is appropriated by a system, and it loses strength. So I'd like to hear you, especially Peter, because I think his discussion is more direct about a political engagement on art. And how do you see this kind of appropriation, for example, in Afrofuturism, by the industry, for example, the cinema and things like that? And do you see this happening in the sound field, music field?
Yeah, well, yeah, I see this appropriation in the industry of music, and well, I think that there are a lot of perspectives and positions in political discussion in the racial politicals and genders too. And I think that I try see the situation as a people that observe the situation, because we can see positions that are completely counter of the system. Is a very radical position, and there are positions that more flexible with these appropriations or use of these ideas, you know, if these fights. And what I observe is, you know, we're gonna have a production of different kinds of productions, you know. I think, example, that Black Panther, the movie Black Panther, is very important because it's a blockbuster. You know, it's really important to a children, to a public discussion about Afrofuturism, about other possibilities of science fiction, about narratives. So it's really it's important. But it's important to highlight the other ways to bring the idea of a future, you know, a future that we could say alternative future, a counter memory, a culture future that go out the normative ways to think the history, to think the technology, you know. So when we are talking to try find other epistemology, we're gonna find new conceptions of technology, of technical issues, and it could, an example of these alternative ways can be the idea of technology in the candomblé or something like that, you know, the Shango, etc. In the religious practices, you're gonna find new conceptions, new practices that are talking about technology, about future, about this idea. So I think that's important. We have this dimension, you know, these layers of the different perspectives that are fighting to be more known, more discussed. So I think that's this way that I saw this question.
I found the three presentations really strong in the way they could put together the voices and the speeches and the contents, but at the same time dispersing it in a sort of in a visual and audio environment. So it's like all the three presentations found strategies of how to disperse the voices, and listening to what Flora said, for instance, about not touching the body, about how we use the Zoom platform these days. And this is just one more event from our daily activities where we are always on the platform. It was kind of clear, or that's what touched me, how Zoom is more or less now part of the cultural industry. We are producing strong gestures. I mean, the 3 presentations I found very strong gestures towards this kind of the current state of the cultural industry that includes Zoom and YouTube in a so strong way, and how the 3 presentations managed more or less to try to bring together the tools to open spaces or breaches or holes in this flat surface in a much more strong way than if we were just listening to, how can I say, linear voice presentations. So all the 3 speeches found ways of dispersing the contents, dispersing the written or linear spoken voice in these carefully designed audio-visual packets. And that helped much more to bring this feeling of closeness because we are far away from each other and it seems so close. I mean, this very strong effect from Zoom, from all the platforms. And I found the 3 presentations very much sensorial, and that's my observations only on that direction, how cultural industry is being transformed by this interface, and how the 3 of you made very strong compositions where for a few moments this flat screen disappears and we have a much more complex way of approaching our world today, let's say. I don't know how you can react to that.